Hi, this is Pastor Dave, and I'm looking at one of the questions that was asked of us in the Ask the Pastor section. The question I'm working with is the question of why don't we fast or observe the Sabbath? Jesus taught these things. Why don't we observe them? It, as you think about them, I'm going to break them into two parts. First, I'm going to address the topic of the Sabbath, then I'll come back and look at the topic of fasting. But when you look at the topic of the Sabbath, our understanding of it varies greatly depending on perhaps what denomination we're part of, perhaps where we are geographically, or also what generation we're part of. Many of our older congregation members remember blue laws. They were also called Sunday laws, and they set restrictions on what stores could be open so as to enforce or promote a day of rest. The roots of these laws go back to colonial laws that were designed to promote strict religious observance of the Sabbath. Some regions and some denominations actually still have strong Sabbath day practices. Laura and I remember visiting a friend on the Pennsylvania-Maryland border, and in that area of the country, the Sabbath is strictly observed. You're not allowed to do any type of work on the Sabbath, lawn work, yard work. You also couldn't do things like ironing your clothes or preparing meals. And so our friend actually had to iron their clothes and prepare all their meals on Saturday for what was going to take place on Sunday. The institution of the Sabbath took place at the base of Mount Sinai with the giving of the Ten Commandments. It's the fourth commandment. It is found in Exodus chapter 20, verses 8 through 11. Let me read it for us. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, your male or your female servants or your cattle, or your sojourner who stays with you. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Notice that the command is based on God's work in creation. He created for 6 days and he rested on the seventh. And so this pattern was designed as how the Israelites should practice. Keeping the Sabbath was actually one of the things that set the nation of Israel apart from surrounding nations. It was designed as a rhythm of work and rest, and especially the sense of rest in God's presence. Between the giving of the commandments and the time of Christ, a lot of work and study had gone into what did it mean to not work on the Sabbath. Rules governed all kinds of things. Can you lift a child on the Sabbath? Can you move a lamp from one table to another? Can you tie or untie a knot, such as shoelaces, or perhaps a knot holding clothing together? 39 categories of work had been identified. And the Sabbath, which was intended as a period of rest and connection with God, had become a burden to the people. They were constantly asked the question of, can I do this? Can I do that? And it had become a badge of piety for religious leaders. When Jesus looked at the Sabbath, he didn't observe and follow the religious leaders' expectations. He allowed his disciples to harvest grain on the Sabbath. And in Mark chapter 2, Matthew chapter 12, and Luke chapter 6, there's this interaction between Jesus and the religious leaders. In each of the passages, Jesus gives the example of King David breaking the Sabbath by eating the bread that was set apart for the priests. Jesus also said that he was the true Lord of the Sabbath. He's the one that could guide and direct how the Sabbath was practiced. This was a clear claim to his deity. In addition, in the Mark passage, Jesus says that the Sabbath was made for man, and it wasn't that man was made for the observation of the Sabbath. In this saying, Jesus took from Christians the obligation of Sabbath keeping. The New Bible Commentary says, strict observance of the Sabbath, like circumcision, is no longer binding on Christians. Even though we're no longer bound to observe the Sabbath, there's still a value to the Sabbath principle. We benefit from a rhythm of work and rest and time to connect with God. In our busy world, the line between work and home has become increasingly blurred. Though working from home because of the pandemic has only made it worse. The discipline of setting time aside, a day or a portion of a day, can have an amazing impact on our souls. Observing the Sabbath, though no longer obligatory, helps us care for our souls and keep us connected with ourselves, but also with the Lord. Worship at church can be a part of it, but I find that we need time to connect with the Lord, to commune with Him. I think of the first verses of Psalm 42 that says, as a deer pants for flowing streams, so pants my soul for you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. What does it mean for our soul to thirst for God? What does it mean for us to pant for the Lord? What does it look like for us to long after Him? Jesus said the Sabbath is for us. It's a time to meet with and to drink deeply with our Lord. Even though we're not required to keep the Sabbath, we benefit greatly by the Sabbath principle of this intentional setting aside time in the midst of our week to meet with the Lord, to commune with Him.